I think that the stone in the shoe is like it's such a beautiful metaphor where it describes, in my case, like an unspoken truth. And when there is an unspoken truth, the body starts speaking it for you in different ways, in health, in nervous system, in relationships, in choices, right? In habits. So for me has been very interesting to also learn that it's not that, oh, I know what is my truth and I'm not speaking about this. Sometimes you actually don't know what is your truth. And that's fine. And sometimes we have to go through very massive changes that make us our bodies to go first into the experience, many times guided by the mind. And when you arrive on the other side, we are like, wait a minute. Oh, after a year, I can feel everything that had happened.
Hi, I'm Debbie Thompson, and this is A Stone in My Shoe, the podcast where we explore how midlife can become the most true, purposeful, and fulfilling chapter yet when we begin to listen to what's really there. And today's guest is Lina Lambertini. Lina is an Ayurveda health consultant, embodiment mentor, meditation teacher, and founder of the Art of Embodiment method. She blends ancient wisdom with nervous system regulation, holistic nutrition, meditation, and somatic practices to help people create new habits, cultivate a sense of safety within, and build healthier relationships with themselves and achieve lasting health. Before following this path, Lina worked as an interior architect, specializing in neuroarchitecture, and as an international model. Since then, she's been creating experiences that inspire healing, both within ourselves and in the spaces around us. Welcome, Lina.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, it's lovely to have you. And I'm intrigued to know what a neuroarchitect is.
For me, it's something that I feel very passionate about because I started studying architecture. And actually, I feel very passionate about the psychology of the spaces. So I was like, I don't want to build the container. I actually want to build how people feel. And neuroarchitecture is a whole, quite like new tree arm of architecture nowadays. But back then, I couldn't even put it a name, but I was saying, oh, I'm specialized in the psychology of the spaces. But neuroarchitecture is how this space is influencing my nervous system. So yeah, back then I've been always super into creating atmosphere or designing experiences that can shift people living. And I think that's the most beautiful and powerful thing that we can do as humans, to create things for a better life.
And I love the fact that it's not just the space, it's how people feel in that space, because feelings are so important, and so much of what we do and how we behave and how we react to life is based on those feelings, of which so many are subconscious. So we don't even know that they're there. And by creating a space that really thinks about it, we're just giving so much more support
Yeah.
to feeling stronger and better in all those positive emotions.
Yeah, definitely. I have the theory that many people, when they create things, it's very beautiful to create it from a place of how can I create an impact around me, how a positive impact, right? A lot of architecture and like all these very traditional studies, medicine, many things are coming from either a book or from an egocentric point of view. I'm going to build this in this way to have the label of my name there and to put in my curriculum. And I think that I was always against of those kind of things. It's always about how can I create something that is also in service of others.
That's beautiful. Before we get into the stone and your story, just so that the woman listening can get to know a little bit more about you, where are you in this season of your life and what feels most important to you now?
That's a very beautiful question. I'm in a season in my life where I'm just looking for a lot of groundiness. I just feel like for many years, at least for my last 10 years, I've been in this kind of like laundry of changing and transforming and putting so much energy, so much vitality. In Ayurveda, we call it the Pitta age, is the age of fire. We want to use our fire to create, of course, it's also our fertility peak. So that energy needs to go somewhere else. But now I'm in a moment I'm like, all right, I already went through all that laundry. I already start cultivating. A lot of things are very meaningful for me. That is not through my ego or not through what was expected many times. It's more about this is me. This is how I've been living my life lately. You can find full transparency and I can go there, but I will always try to come back to myself. And I think that's the exercise that I'm in this moment as a woman.
So, what I'm hearing from you is prior to that, in your fire, it sounded very energetic, very creative, very powerful. And in that was a laundry, a turbulence of finding out who you were. But the turbulence also created great power to create things. And it sounds now that things are just a bit more settled, almost like you're in a beautiful bay of quiet water. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's perfect. I think that there is, of course, it's like it's natural process of life, right? Sometimes I always say we become students when we are ready to become students. We can be trying to learn many things during many years, but then when there is one day that we are like, oh, now I have the clarity. Now I understand and I embody this. And of course, for that, as an embodiment facilitator, I do believe that we need experiences to fully understand what is clear in me. And I think that I'm actually in my last kind of year, I start getting closer to that. Clarity is something that it comes and goes. It's like for everyone, it's like sometimes we are clear about something and then the next day life can happens and that can create some redirection about your life. But yeah, it's been this kind of like calm bay. Life outside, no, it's still turbulent and there is a lot going on. But that calm bay is actually the nervous system. It's actually when you are like, I'm living all these strong emotions. I'm going through these very big changes, but I can still feel calm and in my body.
That's beautiful. And I think you're absolutely right, because outside the harbor, there's all sorts of stuff going on, right? And it's maintaining the calm. That actually is a nice segue because it wasn't always like this, I'm assuming. And so I just wanted to take you back to, we're going to talk about the stone in your shoe. And if you had to name that stone or describe it, what would it be? Because often is this story and then there's the stone as well. That's foundational to understanding what was happening, the turbulence outside.
Exactly. I think that the stone in the shoe is like it's such a beautiful metaphor where it describes, in my case, like an unspoken truth. And when there is an unspoken truth, the body starts speaking it for you in different ways in health, in nervous system, in relationships, in choices, right? In habits. So for me has been very interesting to also learn that it's not that, oh, I know what is my truth and I'm not speaking about this. Sometimes you actually don't know what is your truth. And that's fine. And sometimes we have to go through very massive changes that make us, our bodies, to go first into the experience, many times guided by the mind. And when you arrive on the other side, we're like, wait a minute. Oh, okay. After a year, I can feel everything that had happened. So I think that in my personal story, the stone in my shoe have been some accumulation of nervous system reactions or messages that my body couldn't find that calm sensation to just speak out my truth. So yeah.
That is so powerful, because stone in your shoe being unspoken truth is something that all of us can relate to. And you're so right, in some truths can be easier to see. Some take a very long time. And as you said earlier, you learn when you're ready. And
Yeah.
it could have shown up in various stories, in your relationships, in your health, so the stone is trying to talk to you. It's trying to say, I'm in your shoe, and yes, you can keep walking, but this is uncomfortable. And a relationship fails, but you don't look into your shoe and look at the stone. You go, oh, what's that? I'll explain it out to whatever. And it keeps going till one day, all these unspoken truths accumulate together to create a huge big stone to say, Lina, enough.
Exactly.
Is that what happened to you, or was yours just lots of stones talking to you?
If I sit now, looking backwards, there were many times that were like, enough. But yes, sometimes you're not ready to go deeper into that enough. And it had happened to me that there was a moment that I have to stand up for myself and say, okay, wait a minute. Do I want this? Keep living my life, not this thing's life. And there is a shift of perspective already. You step out from whatever is going on, for whatever story is happening, and you start living your life. That, of course, demands responsibility, and that demands as well to go through the middle of the storm, to know that you have to process a lot of deep things. But what is awaiting for you on the other side is something more real to you.
The thing is, with a lot of people, change is hard, and doing something differently or going deep, because when you go deep and you look at things differently, it's not all just going to be a rosy, lovely journey. There's going to be stuff that comes up. So for a lot of people, unless the stone gets really sharp, or you get to the point where your curiosity and your courage, and you're sick of living, not terribly, but just in a place that doesn't make you really happy. So I'm just intrigued about that. Was it a bit of both those things together that made you step outside and start looking in and seeing the story that you were living in, this, and I guess what meaning you were making from the events that have happened and the stones that you were carrying? Sorry, that's a lot of questions.
No, that's fine. So I think that for me, I'm trying to organize. When I was younger, I have always, and I still till the day of today, I always see the light at the end of the tunnel, like always. It can be something very bad happening, but I just feel that I had lost the fear of darkness, right? Because I know how does it feel to be in a dark space. So first of all, I think that many people, as soon as they sense the darkness, they escape. And that is already something that is different. But in my case, because I was always guided by this light, so imagine that you keep walking by guided through that light, right? Yes, I was aware of things. I was having impact in my body along my Just to give you an idea, when I was 5 years old, I had a virus in my cerebellum. So already when I was 5 years old, my body was reacting through my immune system, letting my defense to drop because there was something that was needing to be spoken. My life kept carrying. I kept going. Of course, childhood, I was a teenager, eating disorders. My body kept telling me something. But it was an eating disorder where I knew that something was off. It's not that I wasn't having, normally you have some kind of distortion of reality. For me, I was like, wait a minute, I'm very aware of my reality. I know that something is going on in my body. I know that I'm not having good habits. I know that everyone around me is worried about me. So I was like, this is very weird because if I know, my conscious side know, but then my actions cannot be changed. So I'm not having better results. Or I'm having better results, I get better, but then I drop again. And for me, I was like, okay, this is strange. And the most interesting thing is that my spirit was never down. I was very uplifted all the time. Nothing was in my spirit pushing me in a dark space, even though physically I was in the dark space. So this is like a dissociation, right? And embodiment, we call it dissociation. The mind is in one way, the body is in another, and my spirit is in another. So it's like, what's going on that Lina feels this way, trusts in life in this way, has faith, light, a whole inner world. I had cultivated my inner world in a way that it felt like a very good place to be in. It's not that I felt inside dead or something that was off. But then my mind was trying to control. It was all the time putting me out from this aligned life, from this associated between my body and my spirit. So I was like, oh. So you can imagine the amount of psychologists and nutritionists, things in my life that were like up and downs all the time. It has shaped my relationship with myself. It has shaped the relationship with my surroundings. It has shaped school trips, time that I have spent with my friends, behaviors. My family many times weren't knowing what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. It was always over explained by science. So, all right, lucky I have been always, since I was very young, since I was 14, 15 years old, very in touch to spirituality. So since then, I was meditating, doing yoga, very, again, nourishing my inner world. And it was when I was 23 years that I got the opportunity to travel to India. It was in 2019. When I went to India, I can say that I was in a moment that I felt great with myself. I was out of my teenage, I was out of those conflictual moments. I was also living alone in a different city, so I was more independent. I could say I was building the woman that I wanted, little by little, right? Already 20s is still quite young, but I went to India, which was, of course, my dream since I was very young, because since I was very young, I don't know how, but I was decorating my bedroom as if it were like Indian style. And I went to India because of modeling in that moment to experience Bollywood. And I was going to stay 3 months, but I stayed 1 year. I had a great, successful year in my life. I was living through, in that moment, I put in pause architecture and I was actually living my other passion. For me, modeling is my art, is the way that I can express my body independently to fashion industry, which fashion industry, I always say it runs in one way, but my art runs in a different way. And yeah, I was super fulfilled. I was like, wow, this is how does it feel to live my dream. Everything went great until middle of that year. I got an infection. I got something in my gut. I was all the time, again, my immune system responding very bad. And doctors didn't know what I was having. Imagine I was alone in a country that didn't speak my language, not even English, because I'm a Spanish speaker. And I was feeling so in survival because I was living there for working. So if I was one whole month sick, that means I couldn't work enough to pay back what the agency was paying for me. So there was like some kind of pressure, apart from the fact that I was feeling very lonely. And I couldn't have around me the tools, the enough tools. And I land in very bad hands, if that's something that I can say. I land in hands that it was helpful in the moment, but it only allows me to keep going. What are those bad hands? One hand, medicine. I was given a lot of medicine. I wasn't getting better. I was just shutting down all the time. I was having temperature fever like 40 degrees, fainting in the hospitals. They were changing the medicine. So imagine that if a body is consuming so much medicine, also not used to, because the environment is something very different to my environment where I was born, pollution, food quality, water quality, a nervous system reaction all the time, because I was like, it's not that I can go and lay down in my mom's arms, right? It's like the body is in danger. You have to protect yourself. And I just had a lot of symptoms in my body, like liquid retention. I started having problems in my gut. I felt even like I had put on weight probably, but it was like all sensations, right? And then I found someone that helped me, but it wasn't actually helping me. It was a toxic relationship. It was something that it became even more alert for my body. So I was like, all right, everything is happening in this moment. I can't get out. I can't take a flight right now because I wasn't feeling strong enough to do it. I was trying to look for help at distance, but also I couldn't communicate properly. Yeah, I finally decided to go back home to Argentina. This was before pandemic. And when I arrived to Argentina, I was like, I don't want my body having this impact anymore. What's going on? What's going on that I let these people, this person get in my life, that I'm giving them the power to do something with me? What is happening with my nervous system that is in this survival mode where feels that cannot ask for help, the feels that has to survive and protect itself all the time? And what is also happening that I'm having still very strong health consequences. And it was in that moment that, as I mentioned at the beginning, I stepped out of myself. I was like, am I going to take responsibility of this stone?
Yeah, so much going on. There were parts of it that you were thriving. You'd left big teenage angst was behind you. You were going to India, trying Bollywood. Everything was going so well, and then your body, because you always talk about your body not betraying you, but letting you down. But I think just from what I'm hearing, it was actually trying to protect you. It was trying to give you a message. And it had to be almost shouting from the rooftops, Lina, listen to me, because the subtle things previously, you could, you can shake them away, can't you? Put them down to various things, get yourself back up again, get your energy up, and then, as you said, you would not fall back down again, but the same thing would emerge again. So the problem,
Exactly.
the stone wasn't being removed, it was just being shifted around your shoe. So you get back to Argentina and you go, enough, I need to step back and see what's going on. So what did you discover?
Makes sense that I was going to do that back in Argentina, because we all need to go back to some kind of nest, or at least safe environment where we can do it, right? So I wasn't sure what was going to come in my life in that moment when I stepped out from just living. And back then I was having, of course, my coach, my mentors. I've been always a person that has a lot of mentors from different perspectives. I like to have my NLP mentor, I am a Ayurveda consultant, but I do have my referral, right? Like astrologists, for example. I love everything. So in that moment, there was something that my mentor was like, hey, okay, let's do this. Let's explore what is behind. And I started exploring, but of course, what I found wasn't pleasant. It was the discovery of 3 sexual abuses. And that was something that, imagine not receiving, but facing your real truth after living 23 years of your life, 24 years in a way. And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this has a name. And I think that even though I was taking that perspective of myself and feeling strong to be in church, there is not many people that can resist the impact of something like that. So something that I thought, okay, this is the end or the beginning, actually was the beginning of a very dark moment in my life, but very real, very honest, very transparent with myself. And what was the dark side? That, yes, I agree. My body always has been the strongest. My body has always been a very strong element all along the journey. And that's why I've been feeling very passionate about my body. If you think about, I had designed spaces for the bodies moving. I've been modeling, using my body as a way to express art. And now I'm an embodiment facilitator, but because for me, my body has been the strongest instrument and bridge in my life. So I always say the solution of the pain is in the pain in itself. And the dark side of uncovering my truth in that moment was that I wasn't ready. No one is ready,
No, I
right?
was going to say, when you ever ready to discover something like that? Because your body was so powerful and it was the thing, as you said, so much of your life and what you did around it. And yet it was the thing that was abused.
Yeah.
It's the dark and the lightness, isn't it? It's the yin and the yang, and holding those two together in the same time with compassion and love. But gosh, there's so much darkness and so much light. Gosh, Lena, that's a huge amount for anyone to carry. And yeah, how are you? When is anyone ever ready?
Yeah, no one. And I think that, of course, we want to keep going in life. It's like, how can I go out of my house and live this new truth about myself? What happened before this? Who I was, who I am for my family, right? Who I am for the relationships. So it's very interesting what started happening. And yeah, the most difficult part in that moment was that I think that my body really dropped. It was waiting that moment to fall. Until that moment, I was like holding it. I lost 10 kilos. I got depressed. I was having panic attacks. I was having insane amount of nightmares. You may imagine what kind of nightmares, because I was all the time feeling the impact of this truth. So yeah, the most beautiful thing about it in this, like, it's difficult to say because I think that not many people would ever understand it. It just gives me so much peace. I felt peace.
Is that peace because you understood now, while your body had this unspoken truth that it needed to get out, and now that it was out, it was in the open, it was no longer in the shadows, there was a peace that you could deal with it and live with it and carry on with your life because it wasn't in your body controlling you? I don't know.
Exactly. I think that peace comes. I always had this feeling, especially when, when the time and space gets still. There is moments in my life, situations, that all that feels like aligned, merge. The body, the time, and the space. And what happened there's the real deep breath. That gives me peace. And by knowing who I am truly, gave me all the tools that I was needing to return to leading my life.
Yeah, that is so profound. It's almost like we are made up of so many things, and all the unspoken truths need to come to the surface so we know who we are and we can see ourselves fully in the dark, the light, and whatever, however we want to describe that. But it's seeing ourselves fully and accepting and loving ourselves from that space, not trying to fix, but going, I'm whole exactly as I am. Is that kind of how you were feeling?
Yeah, that's how I feel, and also makes me emotional because that's how I want everyone to feel. That has been the initiation of my purpose. It has always been my purpose. Since the day I came to this life, I always say I came with a very strong body because I could cut and break down a whole generational trauma. This is not coming from me. This is coming from many generations, my family, Latin America, my surroundings. So for me, the piece was like, hey, all right, I know who I am. I'm not going to stay there because now that I know who I am, I want to do so many things. And the beautiful thing is that I didn't jump from stages. I focus before speaking my truth. I focus just I don't like to say the word heal. I like to say to understand myself. Before communicating, before sharing, before including people to my process, first is me. And that was a decision that I'm very proud that I took in that moment, because sometimes you feel like, oh my God, I have to share this and I have to, yes, sometimes it's important, but I didn't want my parents to feel pain because of my pain. Or I didn't want to assume. I had always had the role of caring for my surrounding. That's my nature. So wait, this is the moment that I have to take care of myself. And only from that space, I can share it. I can teach it. I can guide. And not just the people that I guide today. It all starts with my sister, with my cousin, with my mom, with the masculine figure around me. So we always think that it always goes to the people out there. No, it actually starts in our pairs. And I think that's something that I really like, how with like gentleness I start like rebuilding little by little my life. Of course, it was a shift of direction profoundly. I couldn't keep going with my architecture because there was a deeper calling. There was something that, okay, just, yes, it was about the spaces before, but now it's actually about the person that I'm speaking to. And yeah, I like, of course, like when I drop into that dark side, then I embrace the light even stronger. And since then has been like, what, 7 years, more or less. And it has been a very slow process. It took me around 2 years to get out from like a kind of danger zone, like physically, to regulate my nervous system. That's where I heal myself through Ayurveda, with Ayurveda. I remove everything because for me, it's like I honor psychologists, nutritionists, doctors, they have their role. But when we treat with deep traumas, when we treat with PTSD, when we treat with things that goes beyond the illness, of course, like nowadays I work with biodecoding. For me, it's very important to know that there is not every case, but most of the cases, a root cause. And that doesn't mean that the illness can be healed, but at least can be understood differently and build a new meaning. So as humans, we are pursuing meaning all the time. We need meaning in our life.
Yeah, do you know, and I love the way you said that it's the meaning, right? Because really terrible things happened to you. And as a young child, it's no responsibility. Life happens. And it's the meaning that we create around that event and holding on to that meaning, and how hard it is, but how rewarding it is to shift and change the meaning. And as you said, it took you 2 years of getting out of the danger zone. This is not something that happens overnight. It's hard work, and you also came from a place where you naturally saw the light. You were very spiritual anyway. You had a lot of mentors along the way. So you had quite a strong foundation. You had this light and your spiritual side, and yet this deep trauma was being held in your body, and your body was trying to over time tell you this unspoken truth. I guess what I'm trying to say is that without that, it would be, I'm thinking, very difficult for somebody else to get that trauma out of their body, out of their cells, into the light and make new meaning from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a change of in your life. It's a real embodied change. Sometimes we are used to just keep passing from pages and chapters. Oh, I moved from country. Oh, I do this. But that was a real rebirth. And you cannot be who you were saying that you were. But yes, like I always been very surprised. I always say I have angels around me, and they keep me accountable with myself. And I think that nowadays we are in a boom of coaching, mentoring, spirituality, and this and that. And I always say it's so important that whoever we choose to walk in our life with, that is not about a transactional thing. It's not that I'm hiring someone in order to. No, you're actually choosing someone to keep you accountable of yourself.
And I suppose it all changes. As you change, you need different people to work with to keep you accountable, and probably to ask you different questions and challenge you in different ways. And as you said earlier, right at the beginning, is you're only ready kind of when you're ready. You're ready to learn. And maybe going to India was the thing that was the final push. maybe it wasn't. Maybe it would have been something else. But the interesting thing, and I hear this a lot with people, is they get the message as the stone's been trying to talk to them over years and years. And often it's a huge event that happens where it's enough, no more. You cannot ignore this anymore. And it's a journey through the dark side. But then the light that you get when you clear all that stuff away is probably more profound and more powerful than anything you could have imagined prior to the event.
Yeah, it's real
It's real. It's authentic.
and it's authentic. Yeah, I think that's why the peace. And yeah, people who knows me, they know that my battles, they had seen me growing. And the moment that I click, they also were like, whoa, it has that kind of like effect around you where you also help others to click with themselves. So yeah, this is the level of awareness I like to bring always. And my mission, my purpose in everything that I do is to always share that it is possible to feel safe again in our bodies, independently to whatever story had happened, either traumas, either health issues, relationships, things, abuses. Maybe it's like a blind trust that I have. It requires a lot of work. It requires definitely to put ourselves in a very uncomfortable place. But there is where the stone stops being the stone. It's only when we go through. Sometimes we feel like we're in that threshold, and are we in or out? Are we still the version that we were, or are we embracing something new? And this, I see it in most of my clients' habits. And I treat them with so much love and care, because at the end, no one needs like a prescription which says, do this, so you will get that. No, actually, everyone needs gentleness and needs love and needs to soothe into whatever body experience we are having. We are already very stimulated on do's and don'ts and what's correct, what is incorrect. We have so much information, but the idea is always to go back to our source.
Yeah, you know, one of some of the foundations, I have 3 words that I live by, and they are curiosity, courage, and compassion. The curiosity of what's going on here? Why am I feeling this way? And then the courage to actually do the work, because as you said, sometimes you go into dark places, but then it's about being compassionate about to yourself, and that we're all a work in progress, and we take 2 steps backwards sometimes, a step forward, and it's okay. Because when you said there were those 2 years in the middle, I'm sure you were like, am I becoming this person? Why am I stuck here? And backwards, and then after the 2 years, you were there and you were never going back to that person.
Yeah.
But in the middle, there was a time of deep compassion, because that was the time of changing. And wow, I love your analogies. I love the story, because that was particularly the body, the abuse and the body, the two things, and that it was supposed to be so powerful, and yet it was the one talking to you and betraying you, but it wasn't. It was the thing that was protecting you. There are just so many elements here, and it just shows you how beautiful and complicated, not complicated, that's the wrong word, but intertwined life is. And yeah, so I'm just wondering, was there any belief that you had about yourself that you replaced after the stone was revealed and shattered?
Many.
Share them.
Many. One is, yes, at the beginning, you believe you will never feel safe again. I think that's why I'm in this mission with others, because I'm in this calm bay, as we have said at the beginning, where by being calm doesn't mean perfect. It just means calm. And I think that even now I say that makes me emotional, because I think that's a very strong belief. Another very strong belief, oh my God, and I think that this goes through so many people. The belief of identifying with an illness, identifying with a symptom. Oh my God, that's so complicated. We all carry with that belief. And it took me 23 years of feeling sick in the body to face it and say, I don't want this. And it just felt, it wasn't that simple. But I can see around me when I treat, for example, women's hormones, how many women we stop believing that they can be mothers because of their story, because of feeling not safe in the bodies, because of having issues in their hormones. But those beliefs then creates a reality. So
And I think that's so
yeah,
important nowadays as well, because I'm going back a little bit when you
yeah,
said
yeah,
you were in India, and then you would the medicine and treating your mind and your body as two separate things, but they're so entwined, as is your super conscious and your conscious and your subconscious, and all of these things have an impact. And yeah, I think, you know, I know somebody very close to me who identifies with their illness, and it's what runs their life. And you're like, I
yeah,
wish you could just, but letting that identity go is scary, because then you're untethered. And who are you? And you've got to go into the stormy waters and before you can get into the calm bay, because right now you're tethered to a boat of some type, aren't you? And
yeah.
that's your illness.
Yeah, and the thing is that when we identify with that, we keep looking for quick solutions. I have a client who she was just about to pay whole fertility treatment because she didn't believe in her body. So we reach to these points where it also creates different kind of a stress in our life, or sometimes we numb ourselves
Yeah.
because we don't
Yeah.
want to feel
Yeah.
that identification.
Yeah. I think you're totally right about numbing. And how do we do it in our modern world? We stay busy. Netflix, phones. There are so many things that we can just numb ourselves, because being quiet and listening to those stones that have probably shown themselves numerous times is challenging. But before we finish up, I just want to so much has happened in your life, and there's so many truths that you've said. But if there is somebody listening and she recognizes some of the stones in herself, what would you gently encourage her to become curious about?
There is few things. This is either for men or for women. Both has a different way to approach, but I always say it doesn't cost anything in our daily life to create a 5-minute register with ourselves. I call it the 3-layer check-in. How am I feeling mentally? How am I feeling physically? And how am I feeling emotionally? When I can have that perspective in my day, whatever is happening after that, at least I know how I'm feeling in these layers. It doesn't mean that the 3 layers has to be cooperating between them. Sometimes, yes, sometimes they are going in opposite directions. But by just facing and bringing awareness in something so simple, it creates little by little a different path towards a change.
So that curiosity of what is going on in these three aspects of myself, no judgment, just I'm curious to see what's going on. And then from that comes a slightly different way of looking at the world and things. And then you might be ready then for that teacher, or to learn that whatever it is that you need to learn. Whereas when you're not in that open, curious, what's going on, perhaps the teacher's there, perhaps the lesson's there, but you're not aware of it, right?
The thing is that many people just stay with information that their minds give them.
Yeah.
I have to do this. This is the routine I follow. This is the way that I was set to it. This is the training I create for myself. But when you wake up, maybe your body is just needing something completely different. Maybe you wake up and you're actually going through something emotional. Are you going to lie to yourself? Are you going to keep your mental plan? It's a choice. You can't keep the mental plan, but by already registering where are the other two layers of yourself, then at least you can say, all right, physically I'm feeling this way. I can't lie to myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try. So changing habits start from that very simple thing. To have a better relationship with the stone, start also in that register. It doesn't start from the big things. And people think that, oh my God, I have a huge problem and I have to go from 0 to 100. No, you will never get to the 100. So start in the 1% we can do in each day.
I love that. And I think you're absolutely right. It's the small things done on a consistent basis, the 1% a day that just compounds. And that's where, because everyone goes, it's a magic pill. There is no magic pill. The magic pill, the magic is in the compounding of doing the 1% a day consistently.
Yeah.
Lina, thank you so much
Thank you so
for
much, Debbie.
your
I could
time.
be talking for hours.
I know. I was thinking that as well. I was thinking, oh, we need to, but so much wisdom, so much authenticity, so much power in what you've done. And I've learned so much as well is that the thing you think is letting you down is actually the thing that is actually been trying to tell you the
Power.
whole time. Yeah, so it's incredibly powerful and it can seem contradictory. For the person listening today, as you finish listening today, perhaps there's a moment you recognize something in yourself. And if there was, stay curious because sometimes another woman's story helps you finally see your own. And Lina, thanks again for being on the podcast and thank you so much, everyone, for
Thank you so
listening.
much, Debbie.
Thank you.